Hello, welcome to Nexus Fusion's vlog. Today we're going to be covering data disaster recovery, future-proofing and backup. And I have with me the best kept secret in business continuity, and that's Tony Heaton, who is European Vice President at Unitrends.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. But what I would like to clarify is that I'm not the best kept secret in business continuity. It is Unitrends will be, unfortunately, the best kept secret in business continuity. But opportunities to speak like this, I'm hoping will certainly change that.
I'm just going to go straight in with the question. So my first question is, how important is it to have a disaster recovery plan?
Absolutely, it's a very good question and a very loaded question. And what I would say is, in business, it's essential to have a disaster recovery plan. What I would like to clarify first is that when people talk about disasters, they automatically think about natural disasters, which is like fire, flood. You know, we've seen tsunamis. We've seen a lot of the fires this last year in California, more recently in Australia. Volcanoes in the Philippines, but natural disasters like that only account for approximately 4% of business downtime. So when we start talking about natural disasters, yes, we need to mitigate for that, but when we talk about disaster recovery, we're really talking about business downtime and what causes that. And in fact, what we find is the biggest cause of that is human error. 80% of businesses that suffer a severe downtime as a result of an outage that don't have a disaster recovery plan go out of business within the next 3 years. If you don't have a plan, then you cannot recover, and the question then becomes of all of the data and information and the systems that you have, how long can you work without them? That's how important it is to have your information available.
I think that flows quite nicely to my next question actually, which is what should we be asking ourselves when creating a backup plan?
A number of key things that you need to factor into your disaster recovery plan. Is it backup and recovery, or is it pure disaster recovery? Because there are some subtle differences. Backup and recovery is the ability to recover data when it's lost, whereas disaster recovery is to be able to recover systems and data on a larger scale. The questions that you should be asking are, what type of data is it that we have to back up? And what systems and what devices do we have to back up? When you actually sort that out, you then start talking about, well, how much time can I afford to lose? And how much data can I afford to lose? If the answer is none, then you need a very aggressive recovery strategy. If the answer is that, well, we can afford to lose 10 minutes of data, then you need to be able to go back to 10 minutes in time. It then becomes what within the industry, the acronyms that get used are RPO and RTO, which stand for the recovery point objective. So that's the point in time that you can go back to in the event of needing to recover. And the recovery time objective is how long it's going to take you to recover from that. So it's about having different recovery objectives depending on the class of data and the systems that you're trying to protect.
In what way does Unitrends recommend getting systems back on track in the case of failure?
Absolutely. So if you're going to find yourself with an outage, you need to be able to be proactive. And be able to recover data quickly. So if you have an outage on your systems and you can automate the recovery of that outage, it then becomes a lot more potent a strategy than if you are going through the manual process and you're waiting for someone to discover that system is out and then initiate that recovery strategy. What's quite alarming is 75% of companies that do have a disaster recovery strategy don't test it.
That's a large amount.
Even more alarming is when we talk about the backups that they use for that disaster recovery strategy, 1 in 5 are known to be corrupt. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, if you have a disaster recovery strategy that means that you need to be back up and running within the hour in the event of a data center failure, then how are you going to do that? Are you going to try and bring data across the wire from a remote location? That's going to take too long. So you need to be able to fail over to a remote location and then access the data there. And we would recommend your data stored off-site as well as on-site.
My last question is, what industry trends are you currently seeing around backup recovery future?
Some of the biggest trends are around security. So if you're looking at what we're talking about earlier around the explosion in malware attacks and in particular ransomware attacks, to be able to be proactive and defend against that from malware, having anti-malware baked into your backup environment, that you can actually scan for malware whilst you're conducting a backup. We're now seeing advancements in deep web and dark web scanning in terms of credentials management. And what we're seeing with malware, why they get onto the system, is usually with compromised credentials. So we're seeing now that certain backup products have that baked into the product as well. When we're talking about disaster recovery, it's the inability to access your information that actually counts as the disaster. Given that the biggest proponent of that is either human error or criminal activity now, then to be able to proactively mitigate against that is where all the trends I'm seeing, certainly in disaster recovery and backup are going.
Lots of good information there. I hope you like this vlog, and yeah, if you'd like to give us a comment or a like, really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Bye.